Let's explore the depths of Hermeticism and alchemy, focusing on a philosophy of etymology, the science of how words encapsulate profound meanings, emphasizing how throughout history, significant changes such as alterations in the calendar, language, and divine nomenclature have deeply impacted the transmission of ancient knowledge. The prohibition of native languages, for example, allowed for the rewriting of history and the alteration of the meaning of words, an ancient strategy for shaping collective consciousness. The book is particularly relevant to those interested in the esoteric aspect of theology, philosophy, and the art of word creation. It is considered unparalleled for those with Western or Abrahamic backgrounds, such as Christians, Muslims, and Jews, offering new insights into ancient traditions and beliefs. The work proposes that many modern religious practices, especially those under the influence of the Roman Empire, are actually subversions of the original truth. The teachings contained in the book reveal a deep understanding of the essence considered early Christians about the divine nature. They believed that Christ was not only a historical figure, but also a sacred substance, an oil or ointment present in the entire spinal cord, and by extension, in the entire human body, as all nerves are somehow connected to the brain. This symbolic view interprets the human body as a map for deeper understanding, where each part has a spiritual significance. The early Christians understood that the scriptures, both in Hebrew and Greek, were not literal but allegories, parables, and fables that used the human body, a marvelous and complex creation, as the basis for their narrative. For example, the word Christos in Greek, meaning sacred oil, is an indication of how these ancient languages encoded profound wisdom in seemingly ordinary words. These teachings go further to explain that the spinal cord, symbolized by the Jordan River, and the sacred plexus, represented by the Dead Sea, are central to human spiritual anatomy. They describe the sacral plexus, literally horse's tail in Latin, as a cluster of nerves at the base of the spine, resembling a horse's tail. This plexus is compared to crude oil, while the finer substance in the spinal cord is compared to coal oil. When this sacred oil is raised to the ida and pingula nerves, which cross in the oblong medulla and contact the cerebellum, Golgotha, the place of the skull, it is refined in a manner resembling the transformation of coal oil into gasoline, a process symbolizing spiritual ascent. The book explores the idea that sacred texts, such as the Bible, are actually complex metaphors. The Bible is seen not only as a genealogical record, but also as a symbolic map of God's temple, which is identified as the human body. This perspective offers an innovative interpretation of biblical texts, suggesting that sacred events and places, such as Golgotha, are actually representations of parts of the human body. Golgotha, the site of crucifixion, is interpreted as the human skull, the place where internal spiritual transformation occurs. The crucifixion is reinterpreted as a process of increased power rather than death. The sacred oil, or crucified ointment, symbolizes a thousandfold increase in potency, remaining in the sign of the tomb, the cerebellum, for 2.5 days, the lunar period. On the third day, it ascends to the pineal gland, connecting to the cerebellum through the optic thalamus, the central eye. This journey is a metaphor for the spiritual process that occurs within the body, where the pineal gland represents the throne of God. The part of the text referring to this sacred secretion suggests that the chemistry produced by the pituitary and pineal glands plays a significant role in the functioning of the body and the potential for creating new life. This oil or fluid, which descends down the spine to the sexual organs, is described as charged with the electric energy of the soul. When this fluid is not used for reproduction and not wasted, it changes its chemical composition and returns to the spinal column, representing the alchemical chemical marriage. This modified substance is less dense and ascends again, like mercury in a thermometer, resting in the solar plexus gland. The solar plexus gland is portrayed as a vital center of energy, charging itself based on the individual's lifestyle, diet, sleep, and physical activities. It serves as a reservoir for the sacred oil during a critical period of 2.5 days, corresponding to the time when the moon transits the person's birth sun sign. This phase is crucial for the body's energy cycle, with the moon and the sun providing an electromagnetic charge that interacts with the solar plexus. This phenomenon elucidates the name solar plexus and its importance in both human anatomy and spirituality. The book also addresses the connection between the seed generated in the solar plexus and the biblical narrative. This seed, smelling like fish, is associated with Jesus, ichthyos in Greek, meaning fish, and symbolizes the spiritual bread of fish. The seed is seen as good when saved and circulated throughout the body to reach the pineal gland, but is considered bad if consumed in sexual expressions, alcoholic beverages, or gluttony, as this leads to fermentation and the production of acids and alcohol in the intestinal tract, symbolizing spiritual disconnection. The last part of the text details the historical manipulation of spiritual knowledge. It criticizes the Council of Nicaea, convened by Constantine, for deciding which manuscripts would form the Bible and, consequently, which would be the official Christian teachings. This council is accused of omitting vital information and altering the truth for political and control purposes. The text suggests that many original teachings that related spiritual concepts to the human body and the universe were hidden or distorted. The symbolism of Jacob's ladder is presented as a metaphor for the spinal column and its role in the spiritual journey. This concept is used to reinforce the idea that sacred texts often employ metaphors and allegories to convey complex spiritual truths. The true tree of life is seen as a representation of human anatomy, where the brain and nerves play fundamental spiritual roles. The book delves into the belief that sacred knowledge, once widely known, was lost or hidden over centuries due to significant changes in social and religious structures. The transition of calendars, changes in the names of deities, and alterations in spoken languages were not mere accidents of history, but deliberate moves to reshape the collective understanding of the sacred. This process of forced forgetting of ancestral knowledge is portrayed as a cultural and spiritual tragedy, the repercussions of which are still felt today. Furthermore, the text explores the etymology of sacred words and how their understanding can unveil hidden secrets in common language. For example, the analysis of terms like Christos, sacred oil in Greek, suggests that many words we use today have deep roots in esoteric and spiritual traditions. This linguistic exploration acts as a bridge between modern knowledge and ancient wisdom, revealing how languages have evolved over time to conceal or distort original meanings. The role of the human body in spirituality is intensely examined, with a special emphasis on internal anatomy and its correlation with spiritual teachings. The journey of sacred oil along the spinal cord, through the complex nervous system, and culminating in the pineal gland, is presented as a spiritual parallel to the process of enlightenment. This inner journey is a microcosm of the spiritual path, where self-knowledge and self-transformation are achieved through a profound understanding of one's own body. The connection between astrology and anatomy is also discussed, suggesting that celestial movements and lunar cycles directly impact human physiology and spirituality. The solar plexus, for example, is described not only as a nerve center, but also as a point for receiving and transmitting cosmic energies. This understanding highlights the interconnected nature of the universe, where planetary cycles and bodily functions are inherently linked. This information challenges the established historical narrative, especially in relation to the Council of Nicaea and Constantine's role in shaping Christianity as we know it. By selecting certain texts and excluding others, the council is portrayed as a crucial turning point where spiritual knowledge was politicized and standardized to serve specific agendas. This led to a distorted understanding of ancient teachings, distancing people from the spiritual truths that were inherently connected to their inner selves and the natural world.